Hello. Today we're painting leaf 2 out of our 6-part loose leaf series using watercolour pencils. If you're new to watercolour pencils, I'm going through 5 easy techniques for you to practice. So come and join me. So you've got a little glimpse of the last leaf that we did, which was yellow. I'm using these Caran D'Ache watercolour pencils, and look at these colours, just absolutely beautiful, just gorgeous colours. But in this one, I'm going to pick a selection of nice shades of green colour, and I'm just going to go grab a yellow colour as well. And if you saw last week's, I'll leave you the link in the description box if you didn't see that, so don't worry about that. But in this one, I wanted to focus sort of a little bit like ash leaves. Something like this. I've got a picture just to give you a rough idea of what I'm following, but I'm loosely following it. So technique number 1, start with light colours first. It's the same with watercolours. Begin with your lightest shades first. Here I'm using a yellow and build up the darker tones. Watercolour pencils can be a bit difficult to lighten once they're activated. So we're going to preserve the highlights early, and it also makes blending and layering really easy later on as well. So I should just say I have actually done this wrong already, because I've picked up the darker green. I should have had them in order, and even though I've said that, even though I've done the yellow first, I should have used this lighter green first. However, it still works out really nice. If you look at this, it's still really pretty, and it actually looks like a mini tree. And by the way, I'm using 100% cotton paper from Winsor and Newton, £140 and 300 GSM. So you've still got, or I'm still using watercolour paper. Because these are watercolour pencils, we're going to be adding water. I still need to use watercolour paper. So please do keep that in mind as well. It's A4 size. I've just split the page into 6 squares, with the intention of experimenting with these watercolour pencils and obviously making 6 leaves. So on to technique number 2. Use a light touch. Don't press too hard when applying a dry pencil. A gentle touch really does allow you to layer the pigment and also later avoids damaging the paper. That's really crucial when you'll be adding water. Also, by pressing too hard, you could break the point of the pencil, or even worse, just get hand strain. In case you are new here, I'm Shanaz. This is Blue Marked by SW, and I've only recently bought some watercolour pencils, so I am figuring out the best way to use them, and I'm telling you. So on to technique number 3, layer gradually to build depth. So I touched on this earlier, but the best way to use or apply watercolour pencils is to apply the colours in multiple layers and then gradually deepen the tone, and then you're automatically going to create some complexity, make it look like there's texture and details. You've got to let each layer dry though before adding on more water or pencil. Otherwise you're going to get that muddying effect of the colours, which is very similar to watercolours as well. You can already see in the 2 leaves that I've done already, I haven't added in, you've seen me draw these and paint, or draw these rather, I haven't added in any sort of detail, but as you look at it, it does look like there's automatically detail already in those 2 leaves that I've done. Even in this one, exactly the same way. I'm adding the yellow down a bit more. I'm doing it in the right order now. I'm adding the lighter colours first, and it just creates a completely different effect to watercolours. Watercolour pencils, I think, it's absolutely fascinating. I've been a little bit obsessed with them, to be completely honest, because I'm finding them easier and easier to use as I use them more and more. I have created a little playlist just specifically for watercolour pencils and creating leaves, so just to keep that separate. So if you do want to follow along or come back to it, I'll make sure that playlist is there for you. And then, like I say, you can watch last week's video as well, which was the yellow leaf, but somehow it turned out looking like a feather. But definitely check that out. Let me know what you think in the comments. What's your take on watercolour pencils as well? Have you got any? Have you used them? If you've not got any, does this make you want to go out and try them now that I've discovered that it is actually really easy to use them? Drop me a comment, let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts on them. I do have some easy watercolour leaves as well, just in the normal standard traditional watercolour paints as well. I'll leave everything in the description box for you as well. So I'm adding on a few final bits and then we're going to activate the pencils, which takes us to tip number 4, which is activate selectively with water. So what I mean by this is you don't have to do all of the areas, and also use a damp brush, not a soaking wet brush like I've done here. And I've got too much water on my brush. So just make sure you've got a paper towel or a cloth to hand, and then you can always dab some of the excess water off. You can also leave some of the parts of the leaf dry. You don't have to wet all of it, and that gives you a bit more control, a bit more contrast, a bit more interest in each of the leaf. So what I've done there to correct the fact that I had too much water on my brush is just made the leaf a bit bigger. I've sort of tried to make the pigment spread out a bit more and make the leaf a bit fatter and a touch bit bigger, if that makes sense. So I'm doing the same here with this second leaf as well. I am actually painting all of it. I am actually adding water on all of the leaf because I wanted to see what kind of effect it does make. And then when we put the second layer on the top, I can decide what areas I'm going to add water to and what areas I'm not going to add water to. The other thing I've learned about when to add water is go from light to dark. So the colours are quite similar here anyway. I don't think there's any sort of bold colours here because I've picked the greens. But where I've got the yellow, I have tried to keep those highlights. When I mentioned that earlier, those are the areas we want to preserve. I do feel like I've gone over them maybe a tad bit too much, but we're going to leave that to dry now, and then we can go back to that and add a second layer. I did decide to add another 2 leaves. I was going to leave it there, but I felt like my box was a bit bare, so I am adding more, another leaf. So we're just going to practice that, and then we can practice another leaf as well. I've kept everything in real time for you as well. When I was searching for how to use watercolour pencils loosely like this, there is a lot of information on YouTube, but I just felt like I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for in terms of watching something in real time. They sort of give you, when I say they, I mean the other videos, they sort of give you little snippets of how to create a leaf or whatever subject they're drawing or painting with watercolour pencils. I just felt like I couldn't find something from the beginning to the end in real time. So even though it's very tempting for me to use speed it up for you, I'm going to keep it all in real time for you so that you can see the exact results that I'm seeing at the same time. So this leaf was meant to be like a side on view. I'm not sure if I've captured that or not, but I'm adding water again. I didn't put as many layers on. I still used the same number of colours, but I didn't do a lot of layers. And I'm just going to add some stem in, but I am conscious of the fact that the leaves are still wet. So I don't want the pencil crayon to hit the water whilst the paper is still wet. But I have accidentally touched a bit of the bottom leaf in places, and I still think it's okay. I'm just going to add in a few extra little layers to the stem just to try and give it a bit more depth, add some darker areas into that as well. I haven't really focused on shadows and things like that and tonal value the same as what I would do with watercolours. So maybe that is something I will add on when I add on the second layer. And now that the stem is done, this is the great thing about watercolour pencils. You don't actually have to wait for anything to dry because pencils is already dry. So you can add on the water pretty much straight away. But we're going to leave that to dry and then come back and add the second layer. So I'm back now working on the second layer, as you can see. I didn't have to wait too long, even though the leaf had too much water on it. Because it's a small area, I think about 5 minutes was all I had to wait for. And I'm just using some of the same green, the darker one. Like I mentioned a moment ago, I'm just adding a few areas where I'm imagining where the darker areas might be. I'm not focusing too much on that. This is more about just experimenting with the colours and just having a bit of a play around and see what kind of effects can be made. I feel like this leaf is completely different to the first leaf that I created in the first one, even though it looked like a feather. I don't mean to keep going on about it, but it does look like a feather to me. But anyway, it's still, these leaves have turned out completely different to what I thought they would be. Just a reminder as well, keep your watercolour pencils nice and sharp, which is more of a tip than a technique. So in case I haven't mentioned, these are Caran D'Ache watercolour pencils. I've got the pack of 40 Swisscolor watercolour pencils. You can buy them in different packages. So I think there's a 30, 18 and a 12 pack of watercolour pencils. You don't need 40. I was just obsessed with them and I got them at a really great price. Well, I felt it was a great price, just under £40 from Jackson Art, based in London. And I just think they're absolutely brilliant. I just cannot believe that they're just great. I have some really cheap watercolour pencils, but they're just not a touch on what these are. These are just brilliant. The colours blend in so nicely, even though this is the second layer and we've already added water and that's dried. This is the second layer. Like I mentioned earlier, I was a little bit worried about the muddying effect if you add on too many colours. But similar with watercolours, you can have as many layers as you like as long as you wait for each layer to dry. It feels like this is the same sort of thing. I'm adding on quite a few layers already, even though this is the second layer. It just looks like there's lots of colours, there's lots of texture within that picture, within the leaves. So I've gone in with the water now. I haven't added too much in for the second layer. And I was trying to do the same thing. I've added too much water again. If that happens, just get a cloth like I've just done and just wipe it. I didn't like how that was looking. It just didn't seem to fit in with the leaf. So again, I'm really pleased that it was easy to clean the mess up, if you like. So let's see how these leaves look as well. Now that we've added on a second layer, I added on a black and brown colour on top of the green. And it's looking okay. I think it is looking really nice. And then the vein in the centre where I went in with a darker green, it seems to be working. It seems to look really nice. I'm not going for the realistic look. I was never going to do that. I don't do realism very well at all. But I am really liking how these are looking. I'm not sure if they're very autumnal, but because I've done that on purpose, I didn't want to go in with too many bright colours on this. I wanted to focus on the greens, and then the next one I will focus on reds and oranges. But that was always the plan in my head anyway. I don't know if I've said that to you, but that was always the plan. But I'm really liking how it's looking. Okay, so that does look like I've got too much water on there. I think that's just the light. It's the afternoon and I think the light is just hitting the wrong part of the paper. So I left it to dry. Then I came back to it and then I thought, I've got some space, so I'm going to add another leaf. And I'm going to add some bright colours to it as well. So I'm just sharpening up the yellow because I've used so much of this yellow, and I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to add a few autumnal colours just to make it stand out a bit more, even though I've just said I wanted it all to stay in green. This is what happens. I have a plan in my head, but I think it will help you see how gorgeous these colours actually are. I just absolutely love it. And not just the colours, just how easy it has actually been to blend the colours, to layer the colours. And I haven't forgotten about the fifth technique. I think you will really like the fifth technique as well. I'm actually finding it easier to go from top to bottom, whereas the other leaves, the colouring I did, I sort of went from bottom to top, if that makes sense. I actually feel like, I don't know if it's because I'm right-handed, I actually feel like it's better colouring from top to bottom. So when I do the next leaf, I will do a leaf this sort of shape coming from the top down. So that's great. The next one is planned, and I'm really liking the reds and the orange on top of the yellow as well. I am on TikTok and Instagram as well, if you do want to get in touch. I'm at Bloom Art by SW on both Instagram and TikTok as well. If you do want to get in touch, I'd love to see your pictures. I'd love to see how you've got on. Are you new to watercolour pencils, or have you been using them before and you didn't realise you could do all of this? You can leave me a comment on YouTube comments, but you can't leave me a picture. So do get in touch with me on Instagram or TikTok. So I'm adding some more water now. Like I say, it's so easy to add on the water. I'm just being really careful not to add too much. And I'm gonna rinse my brush and then dab it, and then start with the lightest colour on this leaf this time as well. And it just blends so nicely. So now I'm going to make this bit a bit bigger, because I know I've gone in quite small, and that's what I was trying to do with the other leaf. But yeah, this looks really good. And I'm going to come on to the fifth technique. The only thing I have noticed with this is that I feel like I've lost quite a lot of that yellow. So I think it works as a leaf, but if you want something yellow or a lighter colour, I wouldn't add water to all of the leaf or all of the subject that you've created. I'd just do part of it. So finally, the fifth one, experiment with your watercolour pencils. Here's one example. Try applying water directly to the pencil, and let's see what that does. And it actually creates details or a more vibrant marking. Let's just try that with the green. Let me get you a nice close-up shot. And I've got too much water. What is wrong with me? Why am I using too much water? But look at that. Look at the effects of that where there isn't water. Where I've got water and I've added it on, it's just too much. I've dabbed that off because it doesn't give any effect whatsoever. But look how bright and lovely that's become. And just like that, just by accident, that now looks like it's got a folded leaf. It's got beautiful texture to it as well. That really was a happy accident. I was not expecting that whatsoever. I'm really, really happy that that's happened. I'm just going to add in a few more little details using this same technique, but there's so many other techniques to try. I don't want to overwhelm you or overwhelm myself either. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to click on the playlist or check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye. YouTube recommends you watch this video, so take a look.